Welcome back to the Spiritual Awakening or the edit. Welcome back to the Spiritual Uplevel Podcast. I am Jeri Cristine, your host, and what an honor I have today to be speaking with Ra Netjer. Ra is a spiritual awakening mentor. Oh my gosh, something that so many people need today. And Ra, let's begin. Well, first, let's begin by explain to the audience what is a spiritual awakening mentor.
A spiritual awakening mentor is the greatest gift you can have on this adventure of self-discovery. It's like the difference between wandering through a really busy, crowded, chaotic little city to find an address by yourself and asking around and having to move through shady alleyways and etc. Or you can just use Google Maps, which will tell you where do you turn left, where do you turn right, and you just follow the directions. And for me, having spiritual awakening mentors, spiritual teachers who were really working with me at the deeper level was the difference that took me from suffering alone in the dark when I was trying to DIY it to having such a fast and beautiful stable progress. This journey became joyful, and it just brought out the colors in life and made things so much easier. So spiritual awakening mentor is somebody who works with you. Ideally, if you can find somebody who has reached the goal and then can tell you, okay, this is what happens, this is where you need to do this is what to do in certain situations, etc., etc. And also, ideally, if somebody can use transmissions to show you something that cannot be put into words. My two spiritual awakening teachers, mentors, had that ability because some of these concepts are so beyond any conceptual grasp, right? Words, no matter how many you use, cannot describe what you're trying to say spiritually, because these concepts are, these are not even concepts, these are infinities we are trying to put into concepts. And our ego mind is so graspy at these concepts that it tries so hard to just kind of understand this, but it just doesn't work. So a lot of spiritual people get stuck in their heads intellectually and waste a lot of time in duality, because concepts are so dualistic, whereas our true nature is beyond any of that.
Yeah, so beautifully said. So I'm going to get back to how you started in this. I have so many thoughts and questions on what you just said. So, spiritual awakening can be something that is very disruptive in your life. And for me, and I know a lot of the people that I coach and just are in my life, we have felt at times like, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? Am I screwing up my entire life? And I can imagine having somebody to guide you along that path and say, no, you're right where you're supposed to be. And also maybe reminding us that this life that we have created from our ego minds, the life that we feel like we might be screwing up is really so much of an illusion. Like you said, our mind tries to logic it.
Yes.
And it's just not logical most of the time.
Yes, it's, what we are trying to defeat here as we are becoming spiritually awake is our little nature, our limited ego, which thinks of itself as the ruler of this body, but it's not. right? But it tries to be the controller, the manager. I call this the headquarters, right? It's like it's trying to control everything. It wants to know everything. It wants to label and organize everything in its head and plan everything. But what happens is it becomes its own problem. It becomes its own trap when it's trying to achieve spirituality, which cannot be achieved. It's something that is a realization, not an achievement. It's a surrender, not an achievement. It's a letting go, because our true nature is already here. And when we try to do this by ourselves, because of this very subtle thing that most people cannot understand, people get themselves, tangled up in knots. I myself spent many years depressed, hopeless, and I had no idea what I was doing. I went into so much suffering because I thought I could figure it out. I read all the books, I watched all the YouTube videos, I did all these things that I could do. I thought these techniques that would work. But when I met somebody who spoke from that place, and they saw me where I was, what was the obstacle I was hitting my head against again and again. It was so easy when they just kind of unlocked something energetically, pointed it out to me so that I could see it myself. Even though I was blind to it for years, it was like, this has been the problem the whole time. And then it was just breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough. When I met my first enlightened teacher, in the first 10 days, I was able to go into multiple what are known as samadhis or satori's. These are experiential realizations of oneness with who you are, which is beyond anything you can conceptualize, visualize, but it's just so tangibly experiencing your true nature.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind over and over and over again. And if I had just tried to do this by myself, I was making progress. I was inching forward. I was like learning this and that. But if you have the opportunity to work with a spiritual awakening mentors or a spiritual teacher who's really able to show you the way, there is absolutely no sense not doing it. Right? There's absolutely no way that you can know what you don't know.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The mind thinks it knows. I before that, I thought I was so intelligent. I had learned Sanskrit from my childhood. I had my first awakening when I was 5 years old. My father was a healer and a guru. A lot of people, thousands of people came to him every week to get his blessings and listen to him speak. And I had studied a lot of these different scriptures, studied with different teachers. So my story about myself was built up of all these little things which said, hey, I can do this. I don't need any help. I can do this by myself. Who is anybody else to tell me who I am? Right? And in the West, I actually see this tendency so much more. There is such an individualism. There is such an like, oh, it's my way or the highway, right?
Yeah.
But spirituality, real spiritual realization takes humility, takes surrender.
Wow. I can tell that you speak from that place of understanding and surrender. And I could just listen to you speak for hours. You do retreats, right? And events where you share your knowledge to groups. And then do you also work one-on-one with people?
Yes. So my I have a weekly meeting cadence with my students. And there is a group where I address a lot of people, and I have a smaller group where I work one-on-one with people in kind of a spotlight coaching way, so that I work deeply into some of these things that cannot be worked in larger groups. And the reason I meet with people weekly is so that I can give them as much support as possible, because I know during these phases of spiritual awakening, there are times when, everything just feels so lost, right? You kind of like the self-sabotage of one's own mind is so strong that, you know, a regular kind of support is needed.
Have you
Yeah.
found that there are people who begin the journey and then jump off the train because of that confusion and chatter in the minds?
The problem is we are afraid of our own light.
Mm.
We are so damn scared of our own power. And the first chance this little ego gets, it's trying to sabotage this entire progress and run away from this as soon as it can.
Mm.
And that's the biggest thing I have to work with people through, right? Self-sabotage.
Mm.
And a lot of this self-sabotage comes from misunderstanding what's actually happening. Actually, life wants you to awaken because you are life. You, being God, have trapped yourself in your own devices, and you think you are this little tiny victim. But you, as God, wants you to remember your divinity. So it creates this beautiful dance where you're hiding from yourself. You're running from yourself. You're playing this hide and seek and experiencing life as all these little things, limitations, and then breaking through them. And you're discovering yourself through that. So in order to really do this, it takes a lot of courage. And a lot of people are not ready.
I have found that. Wouldn't it be an amazing world if everyone was ready? Our world would be completely different if everybody was ready. So many people talk about, and I think a lot of us feel that we're in a unique time in humankind history, that more and more people are awakening and waking up to their spirituality and their true nature. That doesn't mean it's easy, as we've discussed, but do you think that that is true? Do you think that more and more people are awakening now than have in the past? And why is that?
So you can feel this in the air. If you're a sensitive empath, you can feel the energy shifting. But even if you don't want to feel into it or can't feel into it, you can see how there has been a huge shift in the last 50 years, the last 100 years in technology, in society, in our cultures, in the ability to do things, to travel, to experience ourselves in so many new ways that were not available to us before. And now we are at a point in technology that we can experience anything we want. Like you put on a virtual reality headset and you are in a completely different world. Only your imagination is the limit, right? This state of the world is here because we are ready to discover ourselves. Discover ourselves first as this is not me. Discover what you are not. right? We play all these little parts, these roles as the limited self, and we let go of that. And something in us grows more and more thirsty for the true self.
Mm.
We are creating this contrast where we have experienced ourselves as not this, not this, not this, not this. And who am I? Finally, who am I? If I've done all these things and it still doesn't really satisfy me, doesn't really give me that inner peace that I've been looking for everywhere on the outside, then who am I? And we finally come to this self-realization. This is the spiritual awakening. This is the doorway to what is known as enlightenment. What is that experiential realization of who you are beyond just thinking about it or understanding it and such. And that takes all this work because you have first put this contrast together and now you have to let all of that go. So as a collective species, the entire earth is doing this together, or at least a certain percentage of the population is ready to discover themselves. That is also why a lot of us who are incarnating have decided to come here at this time to uplift the consciousness of the world, to bring the light. We are light workers. We are here holding the space so that we can enable this mass change. And it's only for those who are ready. It's not like the rapture. A lot of people think about it like you float off
Yeah.
into the sky towards some light and you're chosen or you're sent to hell. It's not like that. If you are ready for your self discovery, there is a huge opening because of what together we have created here.
Wow. I know for myself, I've always felt like I was born for this time. Like even as a child, I felt like there was going to come a time where something big was going to happen and I was born for it. I love that you talked about technology as we can experience so many different things, but that ultimately it brings us back to the desire to experience who we truly are. Because I know for myself that some of the technology has made me a little nervous. People are getting so lost in it to the point that that almost feels like reality. And I love that you brought that full circle for me by saying that, because sure, that might feel like reality for them. However, when they're ready, they're going to start to want to know who are they actually, and instead of getting lost in that all of the way.
Yeah, it creates a very strong contrast in terms of when the light is the brightest, the shadows are the deepest.
Mm, wow.
In mid-noon, you will see shadows that are like, oh, really contrasty, right? So at this time, there is also this, because of the shadow side also being present, there's a lot of people who find themselves addicted to technology or are pulled away from their true nature like this. But those experiences can also be fuel for your spiritual awakening. Right? Life works in
Wow.
a way that it's giving you so many different opportunities. Some of them may be high, beautiful experiences where you are having an epiphany and like, wow, life is beautiful. This world is like, everything is light, everything is God. But it can also show you the same truth by giving you suffering, making you feeling, leaving you hopeless,
Yeah.
leaving you depressed, and showing you how meaningless these external things you have relied on are. And that is when you look for the truth.
I know that's what fueled my journey, was like you said, a deep depression.
Mm,
It started with a massive fear of death.
mm,
And then what followed that quickly after was a depression of, wow, all of this stuff that I worked so hard for, the money that I chase, the, you know, kingdom that I'm building. I've come
mm,
from the world of real estate. Um, this kingdom that I'm building is meaningless. If I die tomorrow,
mm,
no one cares. What am I wasting my time on? And like, why am I spending time working instead of spending time with cherishing my children?
mm,
And it was a huge, I would say I've had three major dark nights of the soul. But
mm,
that one
mm,
was the most recent and the most effective in
mm,
really changing my life to seek who am I really? And
mm,
you mentioned disruptive spiritual awakening in your bio, and it felt disruptive because when you realize that everything that you're chasing, all the worldly things, are nothing,
mm, mm.
then your life may change a
Yeah.
little bit. I know it has for me, and that journey has been a massive journey of um trust,
Mm,
letting go. It's like that. Okay, I keep having this picture in my mind of I'm standing on one side of the Grand Canyon
mm,
and I'm feeling a call to walk right across it. And the steps appear as like the
mm,
support appears as I take the steps,
mm, mm,
you
mm.
know,
Wow.
like it's scary, but the support will be there. You don't have to understand how it happens.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So talking about the dark night of the soul, mine, the I've had many too, and I've spent years through this, and each of these have been very transformative and purgative, purifying times where I became closer to God. But this incident I remember when I was an actor, I was in my early 20s. I was an actor, I was a lead actor. My movies were coming out, my posters with my face plastered over walls and everything in South India, in Bangalore. Um, and I was starting to be recognized on the streets, and I had started to make friends with famous people. I had so many people appreciating me and all that. This is what I was wanting. I also had money. I was doing photography. I was earning money through that. I had a really good family. I had close friends and also new friends that were so numerous. But at the same time, it was starting to feel so empty. One evening, I found myself standing in front of my wardrobe, and I was invited to a party with some famous actors and directors and all these industry people coming. And I just couldn't get out of the house. I found myself just having an identity crisis in front of my wardrobe, trying to choose what to wear. Because that little action had so much symbolic value in terms of who am I? What am I representing myself as? Because the clothes I wear somehow I equated to what is my projection to this world, to these people that I'm going to meet. And that triggered so much of this crisis. Like, is this what I really am?
Mhm.
I am expected to be a certain way as an actor. I'm expected also from people who know me as my father's, who was a guru who helped about 1 million people, and he was famous. He was on TV. His son, that expectation, and expectation from myself, because I got into acting because of self-discovery too. And I didn't know if I wanted to be famous, right? So all these pressures and expectations just came to the forefront at that time. And I just crumbled with all that meaninglessness of these things that I was putting so much meaning in. And I wouldn't get out of my bed during those times for days at a time. There was a time, 4 days, I didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't feel even the motivation to do the smallest thing, because everything felt just so meaningless. And even at that time, something in my heart knew it was okay, right? And because of that, I kept going. Because of that, I'm still here, right? But a lot of people don't have that support. A lot of people, don't have the understanding to keep going through those things, right? So because millions of people are awakening, it also means millions of people are also feeling so disconnected from their old past selves, this old normal society, what they thought to be, their people and all that. Now they don't feel connected to that. The people who you thought you were friends don't really understand you when you're talking about your spiritual life. A lot of the times, for me, that drove me into isolation. Nobody really got me when I said anything that was really happening with me. Nobody understood. So eventually, I just stopped meeting, talking to friends at all. Right. And this is what happens to a lot of people. And this is really what drove me to, I was helping people spiritually for a really long time. I was a healer for a long time, since my childhood. Right. But the reason I really am focusing now on becoming or helping people who are right now where I was in that time is this is what is really needed for this earth in this awakening age.
It is. It's so needed. That support is so important. I actually just facilitated a retreat this past weekend, and there was multiple women who were looking for support. There's this unfolding is happening for them, and they're feeling, my partner doesn't understand, my parents don't understand, I'm so happy my children think I'm drunk. And so finding that support, that is really important. How do people find you if they share with our audience how to reach you?
You can come to my website, awakenwithra.com, www.awakenwithra.com. And I have events once in a while that you can attend. I have my app. I built an app where I offer many different guided meditations, masterclasses, interviews, and many different supports and a community, so that people can really start getting all this guidance. And this app is free, so that everybody can get started and see what is really happening as they're spiritually awakening. And then they can see if this is the right thing for them to really go into, because there are people of all various different walks of life who are awakening. And my focus is to really help them see this truth that is unfolding in their life very clearly, as much as possible, taking away all the confusion, taking away all the religious things that people try to put that into, try to make it as universal as possible and relatable as possible, because this is an opportunity in your life. When God calls you to awaken, when life has prepared you to awaken. This is a huge opportunity that if you use it well, it can completely transform your life. So my aim with that app and all the other things that I do is to give as much support as possible. We built a community around this community of awakening souls where if you share your most beautiful, deepest experiences, you won't be judged for it, but encouraged and appreciated and loved for it. You'll be heard and seen.
That's awesome. Ra, is there a destination with awakening? Is there, people talk about enlightenment. Is that something that we can reach in our human form? And if that's possible, are there even higher levels of enlightenment?
Enlightenment. It's a beautiful word because it kind of describes what happens. You are enlightening your life, bringing the light into your being. And yes, there is first a destination to strive for. And this destination is really to discover who you are, self-realization, first of all. And that is the beginning of enlightenment, right? You are going from this place where you are familiar with, where you have built all your filters, which are blocking away the light. The ego, which is so actively controlling everything that there is no space left for the light to express itself. But once you have had that realization, it becomes a new beginning. That destination becomes the new starting point for a whole new enlightenment of your life, where you bring that light into all areas of your human life. And you can be enlightened in this human body. In fact, this human body is a very helpful tool for your enlightenment. And you may have, contacted yourself, some spirit guides and angels and whatnot, or may have heard people channeling them. But even they don't have this wonderful tool that you have, the human body, whereas you have all that they have as well. You have the ethereal light bodies, etc. Those dimensions that they have, you have as well. So you are in this very powerful human experience where you have the potential to realize yourself so much strongly. The likeliness of this is so much higher in this human body. So don't waste this opportunity.
Yeah.
And keep going. Even after enlightenment, there is so much more. And the beauty keeps deepening. And the dimensions of light that you keep discovering are so numerous and just keeps enriching you.
Wow. That's beautiful. I have two questions. First of all, is there a favorite book of yours that you recommend that our listeners read?
This is the book that changed my life when I was really thirsty for the truth. I was seeking so earnestly. I found the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahamsa Yogananda. And this book has changed a lot of people's lives. In fact, Steve Jobs had this one book on his iPad when he died. And he would give out these books to everybody. Even I think at his funeral too, they gave out this book to everybody who came.
Wow.
This was so powerful. For me, this was the book which gave me complete clarity after my teenage rebellion phase, where I was like, I don't believe, I don't want to do anything related to God in my life. So this is the book that totally helped me see clearly that my life is about spirituality, and I went all in. I wanted to actually leave everything behind and um, go become a monk after reading this book. That was the kind of
Oh,
motivation it gave me. It may not be for you, but this book will at least give you the context of what is truly possible with spiritual awakening, etc. And if you already read that book, the other book I recommend is Who Am I by Ramana Maharshi. It's a tiny little book which lets you go deeper and deeper into self-discovery.
The ultimate question. And then, Ra, what is one thing that you wish the entire world knew?
Hmm. Hmm. You are a limitless being. Stop believing all these limitations that you have assigned to yourself. Stop thinking of yourself, misidentifying yourself as this tiny little temporary thing that is in this body. You are so much more. You are a divine spiritual being who is here having this beautiful experience of this adventure of being a human. So remember who you truly are. Remember your divinity. Remember your limitlessness. Remember your light and identify with that. And there you will find everything you have been looking for. There you will find freedom. There you will find love. There you will find joy. There you will find peace.
That is so beautiful. This has been one of my favorite interviews. Just my heart feels so full and peaceful and calm. And I hope so many people listen to this interview because I know there's a lot of people who are being called and that light is being sparked within them. And it is confusing and it can feel scary. And like you said, on the other side of that is so much. It's limitless.
Mm.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ra. I
Mm.
really appreciate it. I look forward to hopefully interviewing you again in the future.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Jeri, for having me and for providing this space and asking these beautiful questions. I'm honored.
Me too. Thank you.